So, let's start.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Just hold on.
Yeah, turn off the lights. Okay, so morning everybody. We are starting 9:08. Okay, so we'll be finishing 10:08. No, so just you know. Moroccan jury in transition. Many a time, we expect Geulah or redemption after the catastrophe. And human mind is set that way, and we interpret the facts as beginning of effects, let me put it that way. However, though, sometimes it works also the other way around. In other words, when redemption do finally happen, and it doesn't happen a lot, many a time there are ruptures within the redemption. So ruptures could bring redemptions, and redemptions bring ruptures. So the rupture that I want to speak about today is when the Jews of Morocco moved to Israel, and their high religion was just like, not just like, but more or less like everybody else's high religion. But they had their own popular religion. And the popular religion of Morocco, as we have said a million times, was basically Saddico-centric. Okay, it was centered on Saddiqim and veneration of saints, and then for every problem there was a solution. Right, bear woman go to that saint, and yes, sorry. Oh, okay. So, for every problem there was a solution. And now all of a sudden, and that's the absurd of it, because of their religion, they agreed so immediately and so wholeheartedly to come en masse to Israel. But then in Israel, there was a problem. Okay, the Jews left for Israel Saddicless. Okay, if there is Saddico-centric, then there is Saddicless also. So, no protection of local saints, no immediate cure for your immediate problems, no hilulot. Now, I will not concentrate on, first of all, I'm not an economist. Second of all, I'm not even historian of economics, so I will not concentrate on what was the monthly salary of average Moroccan Jew when they only came and what it is today. I will concentrate rather on how Moroccan Jews reinvented themselves in Israel. That's, lo ala lechem levado, right? Not only on bread lives a man, and the fact that this community managed to reinvent itself by the slow and gradual and undecided and unvoted upon working of different people in different parts of the periphery of Israel is just amazing. So, immediate problems need immediate answers. It's great to be redeemed, it's great to move to Israel, it's great to live in the land of the fathers, but then somebody gets sick. How do you solve that problem? Now, there is no possibility to wait for saintly new immigrant from saintly families to die and provide hilulot, right? Nobody's going to say, okay, so let's wait for our Saddiqim to die, and then we will have something here. So it doesn't work that way. So, yes, sorry, this was, okay. So, gradual development of solutions. First, adoption of local orphan saints. Moroccan Jews adopted orphan saints. In other words, there were saints from biblical times, or Mishnaic times, or Talmudic times, and these were not venerated. Their memory was celebrated by being mentioned in all kind of disputations and so on, but they were not venerated. So, as far as Moroccan Jews are concerned, these people were orphan saints. They didn't have a community. So, the community adopted them. Then, there is a beautiful solution. Low budget, dream transfer of Moroccan saints. Shalom already mentioned that on one of our trips on the bus, but I suppose everybody was too tired to grasp the full meaning of the phenomenon. So we'll deal with that. Then, dream-based situation is probably with C, sorry. In other words, location. Somebody has a dream and he locates a saint. Gradual demise of saintly new immigrants, like Baba Sali, and building Israeli replicas of North African Jewish holy sites. Okay, now all of this was not, that's what's tremendous. It was not a movement which has leaders and ideology and money and adherents giving membership fee. This was all unorchestrated phenomena of people coping with lack of what they are used to. And they are inventing new ways of doing the same thing. So, first of all, we will deal with adoption. The tomb of Honi HaMe'agel in Hatzor HaGalilit, Galil, right? So, this was known, this was there, but this was not venerated until the Moroccan Jews who were settled by the Jewish agency in the northern area didn't discover the tomb, and today you can see it functions the same way. The grave of Rabbi Chaim Pinto that we have seen, or Yushamuel Abu Hatzera that we have seen on this trip. People are coming, praying, lighting the candles, and so on. Now the problem is, in Morocco, where there is age-long tradition of venerating saints, then obviously people are careful enough to take note of when the saint dies. And then you have, let's call it, natural Hilula. Okay? But then what happens when you have a tomb of a saint which was not continuously venerated? Now you want to venerate him, so you need a Hilula for him, but you don't have a clue when the guy died. Right? A problem. Well, this is so beautiful solution. They decided that Hilula of Honi HaMe'agel is on Yom HaAtzmaut. Right? No, it is unbelievable. Because it's putting, it's the genius. Of course, but it's the genius of popular religion. So, you know, when you have this great minds like Maimonides or Nachmanides or this or that, then we remember these inventions, these startups or these, right? But when it comes from common people, nobody knows who was the first to come with it, but it just started working. So somebody decided, and ever since it works, the Hilula is on Yom HaAtzmaut. So this is recognition of redemption, which already happened as far as they are concerned, and also Moroccanizing that redemption by having a Hilula on that very day. Yes, please.
It also allows, because there's no work, it allows people to gather.
Of course.
And it's a non-Shabbat, so it's not stepping on anyone's toes.
And it's also giving you the framework to celebrate what's otherwise meant to be a secular holiday by ascribing to it religious meaning and by ascribing to it religious. You need to construct how you celebrate. Okay, so do you take a hammer and go on the main street and the costume? Yeah, plastic hammer, of course. These are Jews after all. It's not Balkans. Okay, so now there is a site which is believed to be the grave of Rabban Gamliel in Yavne. Muslims believe it is mausoleum or turbe of Abu Huraira, and Jews believe it to be the grave of Rabban Gamliel, a Hebrew travel guide dated between 1266 and 1291 mentions a tomb of Rabbi Gamliel in Yavne that is used as a Muslim prayer house. So the fact that this was something Jewish used by Muslims is not post-48 thing, but it's already mentioned in 13th century. Okay, so this is the way it looks like. Obviously, it's a Muslim sanctuary or Muslim turbe. It's kind of similar to Kever Rachel a bit, or also to Kever Yosef in Shechem. No, Kever Yosef doesn't anymore, but it used. Okay, now Sadiq's son-in-law was the head of the local municipal. Oh, sorry, I obviously. Okay, so symbolic reconstructed date for Hilula. Now we do need to know when to venerate Rabban Gamliel, right? Because nobody kept dates at those times, so nobody knew. So they decided that it will be celebrated on 18th of Sivan, when, anyways, there is the Hilula of Rabbi Israel Abu Chatzera buried in Algeria. Now, why would this happen? Because the son-in-law of that Sadiq was the head of the local municipality. So he's the head of the local municipality. There is plenty of Moroccan new immigrants. They adopt the orphan saint. They adopt Rabban Gamliel. They want to celebrate his memory. They want to give him a Hilula. Which day was picked? The day of one of the Moroccan saints venerated by that community, who also happens to be father-in-law of the head of the local municipality, right? So, this is Kever Dan in Bet Shemesh, right? So basically, many of the graves of the establishers of Israeli tribes, or fathers of forefathers of Israeli tribes, were venerated by the Muslims. Jews were allowed or not allowed, or allowed on certain days, or to a certain extent. Today they are mostly taken over by the Jews, and you can see, okay, this is Kever Yehuda in Yehud, and again you can see that it was originally a Muslim sanctuary. Kever Benjamin near Kfar Saba, right? Again, it was a Muslim turbe. Kever Reuven near Ashdod and Yavne, right? Now we are coming. Okay, so adoption of local saints. Okay, that's a very logical solution. I think you would also come about with it if you were in the same situation. But this is something that only Moroccans can come with. Low budget, dream transfer of Moroccan saints. The house of Rabbi David Moshe, as Shalom pointed out, U in Berber doesn't mean end, but it means the son. So Rabbi David Moshe means Rabbi David ben Moses. In Safed is located in Shikun, Canaan, right? In 1973, a 40-year-old man named Abraham Chaim dedicated a small room in his modest apartment to Rabbi David Moshe. Following a dream series, he reached the saint had appeared to him and indicated his wish to reside with him. In so doing, Abraham claimed to have transferred the saint from the Atlas Mountains to Israel. Now, the dream, this is totally traditional. You can be as puzzled with it as you want, as surprised, but as far as Moroccans are concerned, this is exactly the way it worked in Morocco. The saint, no unknown saints would appear to somebody in dream and would say, listen, I'm buried in this cemetery and it's so annoying, nobody makes a Hilula for me. And then that person would go to that place and adorn it, and make a Hilula, and make a Zebicha of animals, and make a Seudah for Tzaddik, and that Tzaddik would become not only the patron of the village or the patron of the community, but also patron of that particular family, which is now somehow, well, Yoram Bilu, one of the famous Israeli anthropologists and folklorists, calls this impresario, right? the tzaddikim need, just like any other stars, whether it's a rock star, whether it's a movie star, if you are tzaddikut star, right? You also need an impresario. Now, Avraham Chaim was not inventing anything. He was just showing that it was possible in Israel also, and that it also can work without actually having the bones of the saint. In other words, if a saint can appear in your dream in Morocco and tell you I'm buried here, and then nobody digs to check, right? Nobody digs to check. So the tzaddik appeared, he said he was buried there, everybody starts venerating the place, and it works. So the inventive aspect of it was that this guy said, well, the tzaddik visited me. He says from now on he doesn't want anybody to visit his grave in Morocco. He wants the central Hilullah to be here. And the truth is, the central Hilullah now is in Safed, right? Because most of the believers do come there and do not come to the original grave of the Rabbi David Moshe. So this is the house of this. Now, can you imagine? It's a shikun. It's a family which lives in a small apartment, and then the living room or one of the rooms of that apartment is constructed as turbe or as tziyun of Rabbi David Moshe. So this is Avraham Chaim. He's blessing the guy who wrote. I mean, this is a small piece in Israeli newspaper. So this is the Israeli journalist who went there to check the phenomena. Now, interestingly enough, many people, especially the Ashkenazim and especially the Litvaks amongst the Ashkenazim, look down to this phenomenon and they say, oh, well, these people are using the lack of common sense of these people and they are robbing them of their money. This is a huge enterprise, and most of the money is reinvested into the system. And the guy proceeds living the modest life he lived before, and there is more money as more pilgrims turn in, and all of that money is again translated into kvasim. How do you say kvasim? Sheep. And yeah, because he is providing the seudah for all the people who visit, right? He's providing the festive meal for all people who visit. So basically, he's not making money out of it. It's
in
pure.
1973, why did they listen to this guy? Anybody could say, I have a dream. Was there something about this guy that made you listen?
He was sincere. He was
the first one.
Yeah, he was Moroccan. He was natural barrier of that tradition, and he used the narrative of the community, right? Yeah, of course.
So when he started this Avraham Ben Chaim, it was, I was some years after it opened, it was small room in his house. There's some people that knew him came to visit, especially his relatives and people from Aguim, the village that we passed by. But by now, it's a phenomenon of on a national scale. I mean, the small room is still there, but all the activity is going outside the house. We built a huge shrine there, and there is the tziyun there, and I have pictures from the one in Europe. You can see hundreds or maybe thousands of people now come on the day of the tzaddik.
Shaga, you want to say something?
I think there are two things to be said, and I'm not trying to laugh at myself or ourselves. Number one, we all have a need to believe. We want to believe in something. It's not enough to be, as you say, a kalbalita. Number two, and again, not to step on anyone's toes, we all sat in a demonstration of herbs the other day, and many of us took part, and many of us bought because we believe. We have this need. This is not unlike this. It's a phenomenon we have within ourselves.
Yeah. Okay, so let's proceed. Yes, yes. Okay, for several, shrines of other translocated Maghrebi saints were created in Bet She'an, Rabbi Avraham Olivar, Kiryat Gat, Rabbi Machluf ben Yosef Abu Chatzera, Ramle, Slat Tat, a Tunisian female saint, and recently Or Akiva, Rabbi David ben Baruch, and Beersheba with Rabbi Yaakov Wazana. So, on different spots in Israel, always major centers of Moroccan immigration into Israel, based on dreams and visions. Traditional Moroccan saints are said to be transferred to new places of veneration. Okay. I will send you, we will not read this obviously, I will send you the entire PowerPoint presentation so you can read it on your own. But basically, you can see how it works. Well, you know what? Maybe we should read this one because it's an interview that Yoram Bilu had with one of the impresarios. So Richard, with your English, can you...
After the Six-Day War, apparently she means the Yom Kippur War, the former 1967, the latter 1973, I moved here, Shikuntet, another neighborhood in Beit Sham. When I was 44 years old, my periods had ceased to occur. I was ill. I'd been ill for 3 weeks already. I had a bookcase with drawers. I had 2 candles. One I lit at the Mimuna, a Jewish Moroccan festival celebrated after Pesach. The other one was left there. It was 2 months before the Chilulah of Rabbi Avraham Olivar. I was asleep. Suddenly I took a candle and went there. Points at the spot where the candles are being lit in the house now. I said, "Oh, Rabbi Avraham Olivar, look at this." His name had never passed my lips before, but that day it did. I told him, "Rabbi Avraham Olivar, save me from this dizziness. I'm dizzy. The day is over. The house is dirty. And the children are coming, save me." So I lit the candle and put it there in the kitchen, and I went back to sleep. I'm sleeping at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Suddenly I see a man with a white beard and black hair, and he has side locks, an identity marker of Orthodox Jewish men. He said to me, "Do you recognize me?" I said, "No, I do not recognize you. I do not recognize you." He repeated, "Do you recognize me?" I told him, "Leave me alone. Why should I recognize you? I am ill." He said, "Give me your hand." Like this, she shows a handshake, "And make for me my annual meal of commemoration. And I shall tell you who I am. And I shall also relieve you of your dizziness." I told him, "I have no money, and I do prepare meals of commemoration for my mother and my brother." She does not mention her father. "I have no money." He told me, "I give you the money. Why do you think about the money? I shall give the money, and I shall help with the meal of commemoration." I said to him, "What do I care about my hands? If you give me the money, I shall give the hands. I have the preparations." He said to me, "Give me the hand." He put out a hand here, points at her face, and he told me, "Get up. I am Rabbi Avraham Olivar, whom you saw when you were small, and now I have come here." I got up, but I still did not have belief. I say to herself, "Let's see if the dizziness is still there." I did this to my head, shaking movements, and there is no dizziness. 4 years I had suffered from dizziness, and now it is gone. Since then, up to this day, I have no dizziness. That is 4 years. What did I do? I got up and I checked whether I was dizzy or if I had just dreamt a dream. I am not dizzy. I say, "Rabbi Avraham Olivar, I cleaned all the house. What did I do? I lit a candle, and I took a box of a spread. I washed it and made a money box. My daughter came. I told her, true that I saw the rabbi when I was small. In Morocco, she said. Yes, mother, I told her. Now I have no dizziness. Now I am well. She asked, how come, mother? I said, I slept and I dreamt. She also took 500 shkalim, about $5. I had 200 shkalim, and I also put...
Okay, we read through one more sentence and we are done.
There. Hanania, the husband, came from Ein Harod, a nearby kibbutz, where he works. I told him what I had dreamt. He said, take 3,000 and make a collection box. And the box grew. And if he, the husband, did not give me, I was putting my salary from the textile factory every month into the box. With that money, I prepared
the meal of commemoration. We'll stop there. I will send you all of this, but it's amazing, and it's all simple people, similar to this woman, who are investing the money they don't have, okay, to make commemoration meals. So it's not cynical. I mean, some of it, especially when the big babas are concerned, some of it is, but when it comes to the simple faith of simple people, you can see that they are giving much more than they are receiving. Okay, now, I just want to point out certain things. These things are deeply social and cultural. They depend totally on cultural context from which you are coming. And these people are also aware of it. So Tamar Alexander and myself, we were conducting a field work on lehashim. Lehashim would be magical formulas used for healing. And we were with this Moroccan woman in the Negev, and a family comes to visit her. They are obviously secular, obviously don't have a clue about how it functions. And the parents come with 16 years old daughter, and they say, we were sent to you, and we were told that you can help, and we are told that she has a major problem with shadim. So the lady turns to her. Shadim is... Shadim are not really spirits, are not... It's complicated. Shadim, because usually they translate it into English as demons, but they are not demonic at all. In Jewish tradition, in Jewish folk tradition, shadim are between humans and angels. So, similarly to humans, they eat and drink and have sex and have offspring. And similarly to angels, they can get rid of material aspects of their body. They are not evil. Most of the shadim, most of the time, are neutral. Some shadim, if you upset them, they are vengeful. But if you don't upset them, it's all okay. So, the Moroccan lady, the Moroccan traditional healer, turns to the young lady and she tells her, do you believe in shadim? And she says, no. So she says, okay, then it's not shadim. In other words, in order to believe, to be cured by the old ways, you have to believe in them. Or not necessarily old ways. In order to be cured in Moroccan way, you need to share the cultural assumptions. Nobody can heal you from shadim if you don't have them. And you can't have them if you don't believe in them. So it was beautiful for me because she was not claiming that this was objective. She was somehow conscious of the fact that this was cultural and so on. Now, Rash Lakish said, if it is in Eretz Israel, there is a disputation in Talmud where the entrance to Gan Eden is and where original Gan Eden is. So this is from Talmud Bavli, Eruvin 19a, and Resh Lakish said, if it is the entrance to Gan Eden, the entrance to the paradise, in Eretz Israel, its entrance is Bet She'an. And if it is in Arabia, its entrance is Bet Gharem. And if it is between the rivers of Babylonia, its entrance is Dum Sekanim. For all these places feature a great abundance of vegetation and fertile land. Okay, now, in 1979, Yaish Ohana, obviously a Moroccan, as you can say from second name, an employee of the Bet She'an municipality's maintenance department, issued a dramatic announcement to the public in the backyard of his home in the city's Dalet neighborhood. Okay, again, not in the fancy neighborhood. He wrote nothing less that the entrance to the Garden of Eden had been revealed. In my first dream, a Sadiq appeared to me and told me to dig in my backyard, he wrote, describing the course of events. I started digging, and suddenly an opening was revealed to me. I walked through the opening, and splendid things were revealed before my eyes. I saw a pool of fresh water, surrounded by a great deal of greenery. I continued to walk, and I saw a wondrous garden containing all that is good, and all around us were rabbis strolling. Okay, so this is the entrance to the Garden of Eden. Okay. Other dream-based shrines, reviving or inventing local traditions, have been added in recent years to Israel's sacred geography. From Yeruham in the Negev, where a domestic shrine for Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was established by a female impresario, to a moshav in Upper Galil, where the tomb of Isaiah the prophet was recently discovered. Okay, so this is This is Rabbi Shemuel Eliyahu, the son of Rabbi Mordechai Eliyahu, and he is the one, he's not Moroccan, he's Iraqi, but he's the one that discovered the grave of Yeshayahu Hanavi, and now we have a new place of veneration. Now, gradual demise of...
Where is it?
It says here, doesn't it? It's near Tzfat, yes. He's the chief rabbi of Tzfat, and this is near Tzfat.
It's out in the hills, middle of the world.
Okay, now, gradual demise of saintly new immigrants. So, obviously, and by now I do believe that everybody will remember this picture, even though some of you didn't know who the guy was by the beginning of this trip, the icon of Israeli folk culture and religion, Baba Sali. So, since his death in 1984, Baba Sali's tomb in the southern development town of Netivot has become a popular pilgrimage center, second only to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's sanctuary in Meron. On regular days, the site is probably the most active holy location in Israel after HaKotel HaMa'aravi. The growing popularity of the shrine in Netivot has been informed by the meteoric rise of Baba Sali to the status of national tzaddik, the saint of Israel of the 1980s and 90s. So now this is the plan how to reconstruct the. So you can see how all of a sudden this is becoming a municipality and regional and state development. So this is not anymore because as much money as you might have, you cannot turn a piece of a public graveyard in Israel into a wood and park and whatever that commemorates your grandfather. So this is now becoming from something local, individual, community-based, it's becoming Israeli national thing, right? So the city is investing into it, the region is investing into it because of huge touristic potential and because of there are needs of people who are to be met. That's what state is all about, serving the people and their needs, right? So this is the way, I beg your pardon, Netivot. That's Netivot, that's Baba Sali's grave in Netivot. So here you can see, on the left picture, you can see how it will look after the present renovation. It's under reconstruction presently. So here you can see how it looks actually right now. Here you can see how it will look after the reconstruction. Here you can see how the outside, the exterior looks like presently. And on the left picture you can see how it will look like, hopefully. So,
when was it built?
Well, he died in 1984, and everything was gradual, right? And adding and right, enlarging and enhancing and so on. So, but it's a project that never stopped ever since. Okay. So again, here you can see how it looks on the right side. You can see how it looks presently. On the left side, you can see how it will look like. And these are the best examples of how the Moroccans made it in Israel. Over here, you can see everything is very simple and very basic. And over here, you can see how they are actually. Now, Jews in Morocco, many of the Jews in Morocco were poor. And even in Morocco, where their saints were originally venerated, many a time we saw that these buildings are very simple buildings. And this type of buildings we have seen only related to Muslim saints who are, or to Muslim royals of Morocco, right? So basically, you could also see, I don't know if you remember, when we were in Al-Azhar synagogue, in the Gerouche synagogue in Marrakesh, right? So everybody thought it was nicely decorated. But these are very simple and cheap decorations on the sides of the synagogue because how do you call them, tails, right? So when the mosaic is done on the spot, and every single piece is glued on the spot, that's very expensive. Now, when you buy squares, just like for your bathroom, and you put them on the wall, that's very cheap. And many Jewish sites in Morocco are decorated in a very cheap manner that only emulates the Muslim manner. And now you can see the Jews, Moroccan Jews in Israel, and that's the idea of national sovereignty, right? Moroccan Jews in Israel now have what Muslims in Morocco have. What Muslims have in Morocco. And that was, now in Israel they are having something that they didn't even have to start with in Morocco itself. Beautiful Mughrabi style royal buildings for their saints and rituals related to it. You can see how it looks like, right? Now the synagogues, even when they were magnificent, they are magnificent on the inside. They are never magnificent on the outside. Certainly not pre-French synagogues, which were actually not even supposed to be recognized as synagogues from the outside. So, for example, if you go to Fez, you will see Ibn Danan synagogue. From the outside, it looks just like another building, another house. And then when you enter, and you recognize that there are no different floors, that it's all one space, it is magnificent, but it is modestly magnificent. It's rather spiritual and beautiful. It's beautiful, but it's not magnificent. And now you see that they can finally afford to build royal type Moroccan buildings. Okay, now this is important. In 1996, which means 12 years after Baba Sali died, the Ministry of Religious Affairs officially declared the sanctuary a holy site. Following the declaration, the Jewish National Fund started to transform the empty space between Kiryat Baba Sali and the shrine into Baba Sali's park. Right? So you have Kiryat Baba Sali, which is a neighborhood in Netivot, right? And then you have the grave, which is in the cemetery in Netivot, and then there was space, empty space between them. And now they are converting it into a park, and beautifully in the shape of a huge Hamsa, hand-shaped amulet. So you will see here some pictures, right? This is this is the Hamsa shape, the Hamsa shaped park between the cemetery in Netivot and Kiryat Baba Sali. Okay, from here you can see. I mean, this is all developing, but you can imagine how beautiful it will look like once it's done. You will actually have a green Hamsa made of natural wood alleys.
Is there a connection, or is it an important connection between governmental support and popular?
No, it's the other way around. First, the people venerate it anyways, and they come in thousands. Then Eged recognizes that on Himla Day they need to add new buses, right? Then people come there, and then the municipality recognizes that if you have 10,000 people coming to, you need bathrooms for them. Exactly. But it's not the other way around. It's not that they build bathrooms and then people start coming. It's not that they build bus lines and then people start coming. No, first people come. And they come and they do whatever they do, right? And then the municipality recognizes, I mean, that's the entire idea of government. Government is, I mean, you are British, right? That's a very British idea. The government is there to serve you. These are ministers. So they are serving public needs. Okay, now you can see to what extent Baba Sali is an iconic, yes. Okay, so these are Merot Shabbat with the head of Baba Sali, and these are, yes, again, candlesticks, and you can have Kos Kiddush with Baba Sali's portrait. And you can also have a medallion with Baba Sali's portrait. And you can also have a combination of, this is this Kever Achel? Shalom.
I don't know.
It's whatever, but this is some sanctuary, and Baba Sali, and Khamsa, and the blessing of the house all combined.
I'm wondering if Baba Sali, these are just, I'm throwing it out, if Baba Sali would approve of this, or is he turning over in his grave?
I explain to you.
I mean, what would the Tzaddik think? He's never seen this. He's a modest person.
Yeah, but he's helping the economy of Nifty Folk, which is something we wanted.
There is, okay, so,
Wait,
just a moment. I'll answer you, just a moment. First of all, it depends from which tradition you yourself are coming. For example, Maimonides would certainly be turning in his grave if he knew that he's venerated as a saint in present-day Tiberia in Israel. But that's Maimonides. Now, Baba Sali is coming from such a family. His grandfather was venerated, and his great-great-grandfather, Rabbi Shemuel Elbaz, was venerated, and he expects no less. He is modest while he's alive, and Moroccan saints are actually very demanding saints. Really, they appear in people's dreams and they say, last time you made a seudah for me and it was very cheap one. Next year I want a big seudah, right? And so on. So it's, the saints are competing. When Rabbi David Moshe appeared to Avraham Haim in his dream, he told him, well, it's all great that you guys are redeemed, but who told you to forget me? Right? So he's now left in Agim, and nobody is visiting his grave, and consequently he decided, the dead saint decided that he's making Aliyah. And he's moving to that Shikun in Tzfat. So, yes, the Israeli Medal Society also made a medal with Baba Sali.
Wait.
Yeah, okay.
Second. Thank you.
This is the famous depiction of Baba Sali, like Tinka. Okay? These are some things written by Baba Sali himself, and you can see that he was using just like other Sephardic and Oriental Jews, he was using the script called Solitreo. So let me say 2 words about this. When script called Solitreo, it's actually development of what we wrongly call today Rashi's script. It can't be Rashi's, because if anybody ever showed Rashi something written in that script, Rashi could not understand it. This was Oriental, not Oriental, this was Babylonian and later Mughrabi / Sephardic Jewish invention. So I'll say a few words about how this came about. First of all, the original Talmudic halacha is very strict when it comes to usage of Hebrew script. Why? Because it's Michtav Elohim. That's the script that was used by God himself. Consequently, according to the halacha of Babylon, according to the high standards of preservation, the sacredness of Hebrew script, even if you had a supermarket list of what you are writing to buy in supermarket, and it was in English, but written with Hebrew script, okay? You would still need to put it into Geniza. You can't step on Aleph, you can't step on Bet on the street, right? So this was not a problem. This strict rules were not the problem all the time. Nobody was writing anything. But at the time, when the urbanization started and people became more and more alphabetocentric, and everybody was producing huge quantities of written paper, so the problem was everything needed to be transferred to Geniza. And that's exactly why you see in the Geniza of Kahir, you see so much secular material, because people would not throw away anything written in Hebrew script, including the list for supermarket. So what they decided was that they will have a secular script. In other words, Hebrew letters, slightly changed, so that you can use them for secular needs and secular context without having to put them into Kurdistan. The first book ever printed in this script was Rashi's commentary on Pentateuch, or on Torah, and that's why today everybody calls it Rashi's script. Now, this script, which has printed font, and it also can, the letters can also be calligraphically joined to each other, which is very remindful of Arabic calligraphy. Okay, so when the Hebrew language was revived in Israel, this is very important for everybody to...
Raining.
Ah. Okay, so what happened is when the Hebrew language was revived, the decision was that everybody will speak like Sephardim and everybody will write like Ashkenazim. That's why for written Hebrew, for Hebrew cursive, we are not using the Sephardic script, we are using the Ashkenazi script. There are square letters that everybody uses. Then the way you write Hebrew handwriting, right? Hebrew handwriting, present Israeli Hebrew handwriting is Ashkenazi tradition. No Sephardic rabbi 100 years ago would even know how to read it. Yeah.
The jokes with that?
Yeah.
I like jokes, yes.
Yeah.
Kol Yaakov son.
Yeah. They say, yeah.
It's not to be confused with what the Talmud talks about as Kav Ashuri.
No.
This is a completely different
This is
chapter.
completely different stuff. Okay. Now, okay. There is another contemporary saint, the Tzaddik of Be'er Sheva, and that is, okay, that's Rabbi Chaim Huri, a Tunisian rabbi, right? So his Hilulah in Be'er Sheva is also a major national event. Now this is the grave of Rabbi Ifergan. His son is known as Röntgen. They call him Röntgen, right? Because just like Röntgen, it's enough for him to see you to give you total medical diagnosis. Okay, so this is now they also have the mechitza. So the men are praying on one side, the women are praying on another side. But interestingly enough, and please pay attention, unlike the Western Wall, where the space ascribed to women is 1/3, if not less, of the entire space, you can see that at Tzaddik's graves this is much more democratic, so it's 50-50. Okay, women have half of the grave, and men have the other half. Okay, so these are additional sanctuaries in the Negev area, right? Rabbi Yaakov Dadon, and I can't see. Rabbi Moshe Edrich.
Eliezer?
Yes.
Most of these things are buildings brought, and there are no atzamot.
They are not what?
There are no bones. There are no bodies.
No. These are already, we are in the point 4. These are already the saints that died in Israel, like Baba Sali, like Rabbi Huli, and so on. So these are already people.
So they're actual graves.
Yeah, these are actual graves. Okay. Now, I want to show you, Israel is not the only option. Some of the Moroccan Jews went to other places in the world, but if you think that they didn't have saints in Amazon, you are wrong. So, yes, so here you see the grave of Bibi Shalom Emmanuel Muyal in the São João Batista Municipal Cemetery in Manaus, a city in the Brazilian Amazon. Okay? He is buried in the middle of Christian cemetery, right? And he is venerated by local Christians. Yes, he is venerated by local Christians and local Jews also. Local Catholics have named him the Santo Judeu Milagreiro, which means the saint Jew miracle worker, de Manaus, or the Holy Jewish miracle worker of Manaus. His tomb receives regular visits from Christians who attribute magic to his spirit. Now, the rabbi, though, is so strong that local Jewish leaders felt compelled to refuse a request from his nephew, a member of Israel's Knesset, to have his remains removed for burial in the Jewish state. They said that they cannot rob local community of their saint. A few years later, around 1980, a member of Israel's parliament named Eliyahu Muyal learned from a friend of the late miracle-performing Rabbi Brazil. Muyal determined that the man had been his long-lost uncle. He sent a letter to the Amazonas Israelite committee in Manaus asking whether the remains could be sent to Israel for a burial. After some soul-searching, community leaders regretfully denied Muyal's request. How could we? He became a saint, the Han said. We can't even move him to our cemetery nearby. Okay, now, this is the fifth, building Israeli replicas of North African Jewish holy sites. Okay? So, this is the famous Al-Ghariba synagogue in Jerba. It's beautiful, and please, you need to establish a lobbying group and to press Debbie to bring all of us to Jerba, because if she doesn't, nobody will, and we are all willing to go, but she's hesitating. So, this is the Jerba synagogue, right? It's beautiful, it's amazing. Okay? And this is the replica of Jerba synagogue in Ofakim. It is not as beautiful, but most importantly, the teva basically resembles the teva of the original Al-Ghariba synagogue. Now, yeah, so this is how it looks like. It's not as magnificent, but you see the seating is like there. Basically, the wooden furniture follows much more closely the original synagogue than the rest of the setting. Okay, so you can see this is Jerba and this is Israel. Yes, this is Ofakim. Okay, so now I will say. Okay, no. First I want to show again the original slide that we started with, because I would like you to remember these points. Adoption of local orphan saints, low budget dream transfer of Moroccan saints, dream-based situation of local saints, gradual demise of saintly new immigrants, and building Israeli replicas of North African Jewish holy sites. Now, I would like to share an anecdote, which is quite fitting for the end of my lectures, and we are having additional one. Yeah, the light. Where is the light? Yehi Or. So, I'll tell you an anecdote which I find to be, if it didn't happen, I would have invented it. I'm honest. But because it shows so well the way the Jewish Moroccan culture functions in Israel. I have two of my best friends happen to be Moroccan. One of them is third generation Moroccan, which means his grandparents were traditional Moroccan Jews, his parents were already secularized a bit, they knew everything but they didn't practice a lot, and he himself is totally secular, who is now becoming newborn Jew. I mean, you know, he's discovering his religion. The other guy is second generation Moroccan. That means his parents were traditional religious Moroccan Jews. He sees himself as secular, but he still knows everything, and he practices whatever he feels like. So he is basically being the second generation. He's just like the parents of the other guy. So they are both coming to my place for Shabbat. And we are having a dinner, and the second generation Moroccan guy gets up from the dinner, he takes his phone, and he starts surfing. While the third generation Moroccan guy is reading his Birkat Hamazon. But the second generation guy corrects him in every third word. Right? Because the third generation guy reads it the modern Israeli way, and he swallows all the shvas, right? And so he says haptucha, and the guy says hapetucha, 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 right? He can't tolerate it. So on every third word, he says the word in a correct manner and repeats it 3 times hysterically. So when the third generation guy is done with his Birkat Hamazon, he tells him, well, if you know so well to bench, why don't you bench yourself? That's what third generation says. The second generation tells him, once you know how to bench, you will stop also. And then, but this is Moroccans in Israel. Then the third generation says, and now I need to smoke. After that, you know. So he took, now everybody knows that in my home, no Jew smokes on Shabbat in my place. I'm liberal, but there are limits. So he is going to the, how do you call it? Yeah. He turns to the second generation guy and he tells him, are you coming? And he says, Shabbat. I mean, he's obviously surfing on the net and everything, but Shabbat, he doesn't smoke on Shabbat. Right. So he says, but just make me company. So they are coming out, 2 of them. And now the second generation guy is turning lights on in the stairs. And the third generation guy, who is just about to smoke, goes like, no, no, no. So he says, but you are just about to lit a cigarette. And he says, yes, but your hands don't tremble if you don't put lights on. So you see, there is a health reason. He needs to smoke, because otherwise his hands are trembling. But if you don't have a hand trembling problem, okay, so now all of this doesn't fit into the Ashkenazi patterns of religion, but it totally fits into Sephardic/Moroccan patterns of religion. So I'll give you another anecdote, a short one. I was invited to give a talk to Or Sameach Yeshiva in one of the neighborhoods after Geula, right, in Jerusalem. So I was there with an Ashkenazi rabbi friend, and we are leaving the building on Motzei Shabbat, and we are taking a cab. And the driver is Moroccan. So he says, the Parnassah is so problematic these days. And he has kippah. I didn't make a penny today. So the rabbi turns to him and he says, Ata mechalel Shabbat? Because it's kind of, I mean, you don't ask people, but if he has a kippah. So he says, no, but we had a major mashkanta. Okay, so he's not mechalel Shabbat, but they have mortgage, which he needs to return. And then he reflects for a moment. And then he says, but anyways, I didn't make any money. So, okay, so these patterns are totally Mughrebi, and they are shared. So I'll give you 2 more things. A friend of mine, a Spaniard Christian, comes to me and says, "You people are totally crazy." I say, "Why is that?" He says, "I met a Jewish woman from Istanbul. I asked her whether she's religious. She told me I eat everything." Now, as far as she's concerned, this was exact answer to his question. She was practical, pragmatic. She told he's considering inviting her to dinner, and he's complicating his life with what is kosher and what's not, and what she might eat and what she might not. So she has her answer to the question, are you religious? And the answer is, I eat everything. So, you know how the Ashkenazi Jewry is divided, right? Religious and anti-religious. Religious, non-religious, anti-religious. Then religious are divided into Orthodox, Conservative, and Reform. Then Orthodox are divided into Modern Orthodox and Ultra-Orthodox. And then someplace, I don't know where exactly, you have also the Reconstructionists. Not to speak about Jews for Jesus. Now, how do you divide Moroccan Jews? There are three groups. One group is believers, observant believers, The other group is believers, God's willing observant. Believers, God's willing observant. And the third group is God's willing believers. So, you don't get the joke. Be'ezrat Hashem, you know what Be'ezrat Hashem in Hebrew means? Right. So nobody is anti-religious. People define themselves as either religious and observant. I mean, believers and observant. The other people are believers, but they are not observant. But it's not that they are against it. They are observant Be'ezrat Hashem. Not now, but Be'ezrat Hashem, they will be observant. And then the third group, which is the most problematic, you know, most secularized, they would define themselves as Be'ezrat Hashem believers. Thank you.
Eliezer has, to what extent are non-Moroccans participating in the Kadosh stuff? And are also Ashkenazim also going in the same
The
direction?
Hasidim are going there as crazy.
Right.
They just recognize this as, you know, another side of their own thing.
Right.
And many other Sephardic Jews are also coming. Many, many, many. And basically many, many other Jews of Islamic lands, not necessarily Ladino speakers.
Creating their own Kiddushim or following these Kiddushim?
Following the Moroccan Kiddushim. No, I mean, nobody can't compete with Moroccans. Nobody can't compete with Moroccans, so just join them.
Now we're going to start the second lecture.
My family came from North Africa. I talked to all of us. I'm not. I just happen to be here today.